All right, well, welcome back, guys. Today we have Denon here, and he's just going to start by reading the scripture passage.
Yes, so we have John chapter 13, 21 to 30. Now Jesus was deeply troubled, and he exclaimed, "I tell you the truth, one of you will betray me." The disciples looked at each other, wondering whom he could mean. The disciple Jesus loved was sitting next to Jesus at the table. Simon Peter motioned to him to ask, "Who's he talking about?" So the disciple leaned over to Jesus and asked, "Lord, who is it?" Jesus responded, "It is the one to whom I give the bread I dip in the bowl." And when he had dipped it, he gave it to Judas, son of Simon Iscariot. When Judas had eaten the bread, Satan entered into him. Then Jesus told him, "Hurry and do what you're going to do." None of the others at the table knew what Jesus meant. Since Judas was their treasurer, some thought Jesus was telling him to go and pay for the food or to give some money to the poor. So Judas left at once, going out into the night.
Thanks, Denon. So what character resonated with you, or the one that you wanted to focus in on today?
Well, I definitely like Jesus more, but I'm going to say Judas.
Okay. And what posture do you think Judas had towards Jesus in this narrative? How was he in relation to Jesus?
Yeah, I feel like for Judas to betray Jesus, there's no way that he had that depth of relationship with him. Like if it really was at the core of who he was, the reality of Jesus and what he came to do, I don't think he would have done it.
So you're saying they were not like brothers, they were more maybe like acquaintances at best?
No, I would say they were very close. I just don't think that Judas truly grasped the reality of Jesus and who he was.
Right.
Despite their years of ministry together.
Okay. So what lies then, in light of this, do you think that Judas was believing about Jesus that enabled him to want to betray him? Was he... Do you think he thought he was the Son of God?
I can only speculate. I'm not too sure. I would say that he just didn't think Jesus was worth it. I mean, to betray him for 30 silver coins.
Yeah.
The fact that 30 silver coins is more valuable than Jesus. So I would say he just didn't think Jesus was worth it. Whether he believed he was the Messiah or not, I wouldn't be able to say with certainty.
Yeah, no, but definitely at least, yeah, that makes sense. Do you think there was any truths, that he believed about Jesus, anything that he was on the money about? Or do you think it was more all head than heart?
I don't know.
Yeah. I know, obviously, we can only speculate, but asking these questions can sometimes help us to go deeper within the story. So is there anything that you could add?
For this one, if I'm not 100% sure, I wouldn't be able to say.
Okay, well, we'll keep going. So what do you think that the wilderness was for Judas in this circumstance then?
I would say his wilderness would be very similar to people who don't know Jesus, who don't have a relationship with him. And there's an emptiness, whether people realize that or not.
Okay.
And without that relationship with him and living in truth and righteousness, I would call that a life of wilderness for sure.
Yeah, so they're kind of missing the mark and kind of stumbling a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. So let's move on to Jesus. And let's talk a little bit about where he is in relation to all of this. So when he's giving Judas and letting him know, okay, you can go and do what you're going to do. What do you think Jesus' wilderness was within that situation?
Verse 21 begins with, Jesus was deeply troubled. And for me, sometimes personally I can lose touch of the idea of the reality that Jesus was human. He wasn't just God, he was human. He had real authentic human emotions. And he knew what was going to happen. He knew Judas was going to betray him.
Right.
And he was deeply troubled. I believe that Jesus was troubled because he had to suffer and he knew what was going to happen. I also believe Jesus was troubled because this was his good friend who he sat with and ate with, knowing that Judas would betray him, but he loved him anyway.
Yeah, that's a huge wilderness to have somebody that you've broken bread with go and betray you for 30 pieces of silver. That's,
and to imagine, if you, like, just imagine a very close friend you have, and knowing that their intention is against you, but still inviting them over, say, come to my table and eat.
Yeah, and that
loving them.
Yeah, it leads that into the next question with what is Jesus's posture towards Judas. And as you're saying, it was one of openness. You know, he, even though he knew his heart, he didn't push him aside. He still offered hospitality and welcome, even in the face of betrayal.
Even though he was essentially going to kill him.
Yeah, yeah, it's a big thing. What truths do you think Jesus believed about himself within this context? What was he holding on to?
I would say his mission. His mission. Why he was sent on earth and what needed to happen. That he was going to suffer and be killed and rise again. But again, we know the emotion when Jesus wept later, that he had so much emotion behind it as well.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think Jesus is offering Judas as a new way of living within this? Like not being hard, even in the face of betrayal, and what was he offering Judas? Which different way was he showing him rather than the ways of the world?
I believe with Judas it would be the same with any other human being. As long as you are alive, you have an opportunity. You have every second is every chance to know him and give your life to him. And Judas refused that.
Right. So the arms are always open. And this is this new way that you don't have to be far off from me, you can be close. Yeah. And so just on a more personal note, Denon, how did this going through these questions help you, and what, if anything, resonate with you personally in your own life?
I would definitely say the emotion. I've touched on it a couple of times already, but the emotion that Jesus had throughout his whole life, of course, but what we're seeing in these chapters. Also, I found it very interesting that Jesus chose bread to give to Judas.
Okay.
Because we also know that bread is eaten in remembrance of him. This is his body, eat this and, right? But he chose bread as well, and he gave it to Judas. And when he ate it, it says Satan entered him. So again, there's some contrast that my mind can't even fathom, but he chose bread to give to him.
Yeah.
But he still chose the enemy instead.
Yeah, that's powerful.
Yeah. Maybe there's something there, maybe there's not, but I found that very interesting.
I think there is something there, something to sit with. Thank you. And I hope that was helpful to everybody that's watching. And we really appreciate you being here, Denon. And I just hope this is a great starting point for us to sit with these narratives this week and just really think through what Jesus is saying to us through them. And we'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks, guys.
See you tomorrow.